Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Odos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. Locked and loaded, ready to go. Listen, we got plenty of topics to talk about today. And yes, unlike your other major networks, we're here for you. We're here to break down all the topics for this week. I know they're struggling to find what to talk about, who has the best hair in the NFL, who wears the most fashionable clothes. But I'm here to tell you, this is the spot to be in to talk NFL talk all year long. So Welcome to the show. If you're new to the show, do us a favor. This helps our channel out on YouTube. It helps us out to grow on Facebook. But head over to YouTube, search us up, Football on the Know Show. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. And as well, you can join us on Facebook, become a member, become a know-it-all, and we're here for you everywhere, even on podcasts. That's right. Anywhere you get your podcasts, we're there. Make sure you hit us up with a follow. And please, please, please drop a comment down below. Like it, share the video. Let us know your true feelings about what topics we have. Or if you'd like to share with us something, you have a question about your team, maybe a player or a situation, drop it in the comments down below. Let us know that you're here. Say hi, ask a question, give us your opinion on whatever. But thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Super excited. The season's coming. I like that meme that was spread around this past week. It said this is the last Sunday before we have football every week now until February.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Yep. So it's coming, buddy. We're feeling
super excited.
A lot of people getting their fantasy things getting going. Godzilla Media just sent us the update that the fantasy league's going to be starting pretty soon. So how about that?
We have a know-it-all right in already. Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Sean Martin's in the house.
Sean Martin, said the Raider logo up top is a winner.
There you go.
So there you go. Got a Raider fan right there for you. Raider Nation, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sean Martin, he's part of the Godzilla Media family as well. He's on his show that I know of. He does the M&M, I think is what it's called. And then also, I think it's Pugly's Pit, I think is his other one, though. So if you guys get a chance to go to Godzilla Media's YouTube page, check his show out as well. Very informative. Definitely. It's awesome. Let's get to the Kareem Hunt stuff going on now, Joe. He had requested a trade a while back here and wanted it out of Cleveland. And then Cleveland says no. They're like, no, you can't go seek a trade. So you're going to stay here and be our second workload guy. Our 1-2 punch. And he's going to play. He's not going to cause a problem about it and all that. But do you think he even sought a trade because maybe he feels that he could be a true starter somewhere else, or even that the thing that's looming with Deshaun Watson and stuff like that, like the league's going after him, like they are going to put him out for a year because they feel, again, that he's a sexual predator. So he sees that, dude, our team might suck now or whatever, so I need to get out of here and maybe show my talents again somewhere else and be a true starter.
No, I don't think so. I don't think at all. I mean, Kareem Hunt's name in league circles speaks for itself. Everybody knows he's a starting caliber back for anybody in need. That's really not what it is. What it is the contract negotiations going on, or lack thereof. He's been wanting a long-term deal, and they still haven't even come close in negotiations. So because of that, he's like, okay, well, if you guys don't really want to pay me or give me a longer-term deal, because we all know that you have Nick Chubb, and he's your guy, then allow me to be traded to somewhere that someone needs. Someone needs a running back right now to start for them or even compete for the starting job, and is willing to give me a new deal. So that's really all what it comes down to, is that he wants a new deal. They haven't even come close to, an agreement or a negotiation that's close to getting the deal done. And now he's ready to move on. He's like, okay, if you guys don't want me, then let me be allowed to go somewhere else where a team wants me. So, and allowed to perform. And that's the main issue right now is for him. He's just looking for job security. He's looking for a long-term agreement. In Cleveland, maybe they're not willing to give him that long-term agreement. And that's why you see now he's like, okay, well, you know what? Trade me. Trade me to someone. I demand a trade. And it's awfully hilarious that Cleveland just took the stance of like, no, absolutely not. We're not trading you. Okay, well, what do you want to do with the situation, Cleveland? Because he wants a long-term deal. It's not like he wants out of Cleveland. He just wants that job security. He wants that long-term deal to remain a Cleveland Brown and to be locked in. So if you're not willing to go that route and negotiate a new deal, and you don't want to trade the guy upon a trade request, then what do you expect him to do? As far as, listen, he hasn't been to practices because of this situation, because he's like, here, do one or the other for me. At least allow me to be traded, or let's get a deal done. And so far, nothing has transpired either way. So if I'm Kareem Hunt, I think he's within his own right to say, okay, well, I'm not going to show up for practice now. I'm just going to kind of just hang out and hold out at this point.
Yeah, and I'm sure that maybe that's even what he wants. And the Browns, I mean, this is his last year of his deal. He's got a $3.5 million roster bonus, so for being on the roster this year, but only getting paid $1,350,000. So he's looking to try and expand, like say, stay with the roster with this team. He doesn't want to probably go into the next year's offseason being 28 years old now because he's 27 right now. Figure he's got, 2 more years in the tires possibly for a running back, the way the running backs in their careers go. I mean, he has been able to miss some time, and unfortunately because of the things that he's done off the field, but there he is now at 27, wants to be able to still get paid. The Browns, I think, see it as we're going to run it with you one more time, like you said, on the other side of Nick Chubb, and then they can be free of him after this year. They don't need to try to re-sign him to another deal, or then maybe they could be like, all right, yeah, maybe we'll bring you back if you're testing free agency, nobody really wants you or something like that. We'll kick the tires around
No way.
and we'll throw a little bit out there. So maybe they'll just be like, yeah, and again, another 1-2 year deal or something like that. But overall, again, that's what I think you're saying too as well is a good point, that he's just looking for some job security because after he's going to become a free agent this coming offseason, it could be the end. You know, if nobody's really interested in him, he could be just out there for a while and then eventually just force himself into a retirement. But with the way that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been lately too as well, as long as maybe they still have Tom Brady, maybe they will say, hey, maybe Kareem Hunt, you can come on over here too.
That's the crazy thing though too, is that there's no shortage of interest in Kareem Hunt at all. Like anybody, any team would be willing to take him in and say, okay, we'll play it. We'll give you a new deal. So I don't think the level of interest is dissipated or going away, even if he hits free agency. But if you're Cleveland and you're not going to give him a longer-term deal to lock him in, then why not get what you can in compensation right now for him before he gets to test the free agency market? That's just being logical about this situation right at this point. But for Kareem Hunt, if he is going to test the free agent market, he will be signed really quickly, even at 27 years old. But you also got to remember, too, there's a lot of tread on those tires. He's been a backup or at least split time for a few years now, to this point where he's kind of saved his body in the long term, where he might be able to last a little bit longer than 30 years old. Maybe he can play till 31, 32 years old at running back. So he might have created a longer term effect for him to play a longer part of his career. And if that's the case, which that's what it seems like, he's pretty healthy. You know, he hasn't gotten into any more trouble since Cleveland took a big gamble when they signed Kareem Hunt. And he served a suspension, and now he hasn't been in trouble since. I mean, that looks good on his resume, and he's still a hot commodity in terms of running back for you, that a guy that can do everything. And I think that if Cleveland doesn't want him, someone else is going to get him, and he will definitely be a starting tailback once again.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward with that team. If they do want to just pull them aside and give them that small extension throughout the season if they do touch on that. Or, again, if they're feeling comfortable with just walking away after the end of the season and saying, go ahead, test your free agency after this.
Absolutely.
A lot of news going on with the Cleveland Browns this offseason. Again, it's never a dull moment there in Cleveland when they think they even have that chance to maybe this is the year we're going to switch it around and make a move. Stuff like this is happening now, but it's pretty crazy. But I want to bring up a fact that we have two sponsors back with us again this upcoming season, Joe, and it is Colorize and Paul Perry Kitchens. Let me give you a second here to tell you about Paul Perry Kitchens. They're on 144 Freeman's Bridge Road. Also, they have a second location at 115 Freeman's Bridge Road. If you're looking to get your kitchen done, you know, you're looking at it like, oh, finally, honey, we got to get this thing redone. It's looking a little grimy. Go down to Paul Perry Kitchens, Freeman's Bridge Road, or you can check them out at paulperrykitchens.com. See what they've done for other folks out there. Hear about the happy stories and the reviews that they've got. Get a granite countertop too as well. Corian. They have other different types of things you can do there too as well. And the other location down the road, they do custom showers and closets too as well. You heard of California Closets and all that stuff. Well, they do the same thing. How better would it be for you to come home and kick your shoes off and then go into your walk-in custom closet and change into that comfortable outfit? You want to just kick your feet up and watch some TV there. Well, check out paulperrykitchens.com, or you can call them at 518-688-0898 or Freeman's Bridge Road at 115 Freeman's Bridge Road. That's right, Paul Perry Kitchens. It's a pleasure having you with us this upcoming season. Joe, Justin Tucker also he just became the highest paid kicker now.
That's right.
Joe. And a lot of people that I've talked to about this so far, I mean, it's no real surprise. I think this is probably one of the kickers when you talk about what they make or who might be the highest paid of all time. This seems legit though for me, because what Justin Tucker has been able to do, and you've seen it even last year with that long kick that he did to barely skimp out a win there at around the 50-something yard line. This is what you pay that guy to do, and this is why you invest money like that. It was a head scratcher for me when your Raiders, when they gave Sebastian Janikowski that highest paid deal when he was there. Yes, you wanted to keep him around, I'm sure, and he has the strong leg, but his accuracy wasn't there for me. So for him to be the highest paid at that particular point was kind of a head scratcher for me. But Justin Tucker, I think this is pretty legit here.
I think it's legit. I mean, if you're going to compare him to Sebastian, though, you want us to talk consistency? Yeah, Justin Tucker is consistent, and he's done what he's had to do in the league to this point, warranting the contract that he's gotten. But like going back with Sebastian Janikowski, at that time, that era, he was the best kicker in the league. So he got paid what he got paid because he was the best kicker in the league. Now Tucker is the best kicker in the league. He gets his ransom money, and now is going to continue his career with the Ravens. The only problem that lies with paying kickers and punters big-time money is it will come back when you need that little extra room in cap space. It's going to come back pretty quickly to where you're going to have to abolish that contract or restructure or even, kind of move on from that kicker to get that little bit of cap space because – yeah, they might have that cap space now, but what's going to happen? Like we talk about Lamar Jackson up for a new deal, and we're waiting on negotiations to get a little bit closer to get almost done for Baltimore. The questions are up there. Like, do they stay with Lamar Jackson? Yeah, they kind of have to because he is a franchise quarterback, regardless of what you feel or say about the guy. Who's going to step up? If he's not there, they don't have an answer after him. So. That's how they feel about Justin Tucker, is you look around the league and there's not a whole lot of kickers that are as good or as consistent as Justin Tucker is. He has a leg. He can kick long-distance field goals. He's pretty darn accurate. And you look around the league, there's not a whole lot of kickers that are even similar to him or like him. So you don't want to lose a commodity at that position when – and there's going to be times, like he's proven before in the past with Baltimore, where he's had to win the game for them, or he's had to tie the game with the last seconds remaining in the contest. So he's deserving of the money. He's got paid. Let's see what Baltimore can figure out going forward after this. because they still got a big deal to do with Lamar Jackson, and we're still waiting on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing I would just have to say about that too as well. When you want to invest money in a guy that's just like, again, just a kicker, to where even now, if you look at the game, they're trying to phase out kickers even as much, or even phase out in a sense, but then also trying to make their position a little more important with the fact that they moved the zone back further, you know what I mean, instead of just, you know, like when they do extra points and things like that. So then you had to be able to make that extra point. You actually had to, you know, kick it from a distance, and where the wind might be a factor, or weather and things like that. So for a thing with the league, that to have a guy that's not really a skill position, it is in a sense, but not a major one. It's tough. It's not like they're gonna be dishing out like tons of money though and give this guy like the highest paid contract on the roster. But it's just, yeah, like you said, investing in a guy like this. But for Justin Tucker, I think it's legit, because he has been able to do that. And Baltimore, they're looking to try and get back to the playoffs, because last year they didn't play so hot. And they could use a guy like this to where if it's a close game and they need to go to a Justin Tucker in the last minute and they're anywhere remotely near half field, that he can make it, at least in good weather conditions, and get them either, you know, to the Super Bowl or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and that's why they held on to him, because of how consistent, how good he is. But the one thing I'll say is that it's not for Tucker. Great, you got paid. You know what I mean? You're staying with the team that you want to stay with, and it's all well and good. But the one problem that I've always had was paying special teams players bigger money than normal, is that because it does eat up a little bit of your cap, not really, it doesn't really put much of a dent in it, but it puts a small dent. The higher you pay them, the more of a dent that you're gonna need. The cap space is a big deal now. It's a strategy game at this point. Year in and year out, GMs, front offices are always trying to find what, the better deal or create some more cap space, because sometimes they get right down into the trenches with it, and like, oh man, we only got like $1 million over the cap. We need to make some moves here to get under. They got to do a lot of restructuring and everything. And this might, not right now, but it might come into play where later on Baltimore is going to have to reduce his contract, restructure it, maybe give him a couple more years or whatever, add on to it to stretch it out. But my biggest thing is you're paying a position that is not on the football field that much. Yes, they are decision makers at times, but they're not on the field too often to be able to be major contributors to bringing your team as far as it has to go. You know what I mean? So I had a problem when Sebastian Janikowski made large money, even though he was one of the better players on that team, which there wasn't a ton back then, but he was a guy that got stuff done to get more points. You know what I mean? To get those wins or whatever. However, that came back to haunt them, because then it came to where they need more cap space, and guess where it ended up going? The kicker. They had to take away from the kicker. So still have to wait and see what happens with Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's all well and good, but here's the wrong message you're sending right now if you're Baltimore. Okay, you took care of Tucker. Everybody's still wondering what about Lamar? When is that going to get done? You took care of our kicker. Okay, great. We still have our kicker, but Lamar is, he's himself is still waiting. Like, hey, when are we going to get this thing done or what? Like, why is this taking so long? Listen, I think Lamar is happy for Justin Tucker getting a new deal. Obviously, it's his teammate, but you got to start wondering, like, we're getting closer to the season, and still no murmurings of a contract being close or even probably going to get done within the next week or so.
Yeah,
like, we haven't heard
pretty
anything
right
out of Baltimore. So now you got to wonder, like, what does that mean for Lamar's future as we get closer to week 1? And yes, they still got time, obviously, but when you get to that, I feel like the threshold there is week 8. If you don't have a deal by week 8, then there's going to be stories stirred up about, well, is Baltimore have full confidence in Lamar going forward because they don't have a deal done? And does that mean he could be dealt midway through the season, especially if they're not having a good season by then? there's a lot of things to talk about with Baltimore. So, especially with Lamar, I mean, I don't know where they're headed, what direction they're going, but right now it doesn't look good.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Mike Tackett in the house with us tonight. All right. Happy Wednesday, guys. Glad to see you back. Yeah, absolutely.
What's going on, Mike?
Yeah, glad Tucker got paid. I'm interested to see when the CBA gets negotiated, what they'll do about the guaranteed contracts. The biggest sports league in North America doesn't have guaranteed contracts with the NIL in college. Those guys are going to want 100% guaranteed money, not relying on signing bonuses. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing now, too. Now that they've jumped into that swimming pool there for the college now, and now these guys can sign deals with other commercials and whatever to they get their sponsors to get their own money. They're already going to be into it and used to it. So then when they come into here, they're like, okay, well, now I have to try and do this and be able to get this with a risk of this. I mean, the problem is too, like I always just wanted to keep it the same. I don't think if it's because I'm old, if it's just that I think maybe even still you feel you should earn what you have to earn, because that's the whole point of going to college. Do your good grades, try and do the best to get into the NFL, try and make it once you're there, and then you do hard work rewards. But for me, this seems like, again, you guys are showing us as symbols of this, blah, blah, blah. We should get paid for likeness. And then I think it's going to ultimately breed, again, more of that sense that entitlement, that these players are just, I'm entitled to this money. I go in the NFL, it's now I'm entitled to this now too as well.
Well, the thing is, the NFL already has parameters for the draft where you get this contract and that's it.
Well,
there's not going to be negotiations in the draft because that's already done with. That's been gone. What I would say for the college athletes out there is that they do work hard. And when it shows on the football field of how good of a player you are, you're rewarded by getting paid now. Yes, you do get paid for likeness in that thing. And that's why a lot of colleges and now they're going to be selling jerseys with their names on the back. So, I mean, because of that likeness, yeah, they deserve to be paid. Hey, listen, if you got a favorite running back, from Wyoming State, and I'm like, oh, my God, I love this guy. I'm going to get his jersey. Well, shouldn't some of those funds go towards that player? I believe so. I mean, listen, if they're that good of a player in college, they're starting to grow a resume as college athletes, preparing to go possibly into the pros. And regardless of your views in terms of, like, listen, I know a lot of people are against this. I know a ton of people are against this. And they don't believe that student athletes should be paid. But on the other hand, like, think of how long we've gone with the bowl games, these big major corporate sponsors, and they get paid millions of dollars for just airing the games, showing their logo on the football field. Everybody's getting paid. Head coaches in college, heck, at some point in time, some of them make more money than NFL head coaches. I mean, so the money's getting spent all over the place. And then if you're a really good college football team or you have a large following, ticket sales, merchandise, all that stuff the universities make. But here's the players that are on the football field that are literally making the money for you, and they don't see a dime. Now, finally, they're getting rewarded for putting a good product on the football field. And not to mention, I think this is going to drive them even more, because when you have athletes out there that maybe they might be just average players, but now they're going to get hungrier because they're like, oh, well, he's making more money. I don't have a sponsor or nothing. I'm going to get hungry. I need to work harder so I can make money before I go into the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's always the dream for everybody. Some of them don't make it, but maybe they can make some money while they're in college to further prepare them when they get out of college, even if they don't make it to the pros. Now they are set up. They have some money that they can either utilize to maybe go into business, or they can set themselves up in their family in better standings outside of college. So I think this could be a very good thing for student athletes. Yes, you're going to have some knuckleheads that are going to abuse it, and they're going to spend all their money and be bankrupt. That always happens even in the NFL with adults. Absolutely. There could be good and bad from this. However, I think this is going to be a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Butler's in the house.
What's going on, Jared?
Great move by the NCAA. It's the very least they could do for these players. I understand, at least for me, I can go with the whole point that they can find sponsors on their own and get sponsorship money outside of what the college. I don't want them to be paid players by the college, that they can actually go and make their money from other places. Because I always thought it was dumb when they would get penalized, or even too, of like they got something given to them. Like, oh, you got a cheeseburger or something like that for some place, or somebody walked in like, oh, hey, I know you. I'm going to give you your dinner for free or something. And then they're like, oh, no, and then they get in trouble or something, stupid stuff like that. And the fact that if you might see somebody and like, here, I'll sign this ball for you here, or something like that, kid, or whatever. So, I mean, that makes more sense for me. That I can kind of get aboard with what you're saying. But again, I just, sometimes there's those things. I think it becomes a slippery slope for some of these. Mike Tackett also says about Madden gameplay was dropped today. Looked okay, he said. Drops August 19th. Man, August 19th, huh? All right, so I'm not going to buy it, but, I tried playing in 2022, and I gave up on Madden a while ago, because it just got worse and worse and worse. And yes, might improve graphics and stuff and some gameplay from others and stuff. But then they make it too arcade and too different for people, I think, that aren't traditionally into just football itself, but maybe just to play the game, get them interested, keep them kind of guessing. Like the whole X Factor thing, I think is stupid.
Superpowers.
Yeah, it's like you're giving these guys, powers. Yeah, during a game, you can unlock by doing stupid stuff, instead of just playing the game for what the game is. So then people are even trying to hammer on certain things so they get that level up so then they can activate the super point or whatever. And it's just dumb. As they keep going, I know that their contract's up here, and then 2K has a shot at this and others. I can't wait to see what happens after this year, and maybe 2K gets another chance, because everybody remembers that game that they put out for ESPN football there, and it was amazing. I really liked it. I liked the halftime game show that they had. TOs on the cover. The fact that you had even a crib that you can, dress up and all this other junk and stuff. Even the graphics were pretty good. It was like $20 for the game. So I'm excited for that. But, Madden, yes.
But the thing with 2K is 2K, they're already working on it. They're already making that game. They're definitely going to get a crack at it to prove to the NFL maybe that we could make a better product than Madden.
Madden's give them the opportunity to. I know that much at least.
But here's the thing is, for EA Sports and how they've developed Madden over the years, a lot of they always get, every single year there's always a ton of complaints. And I understand you're not going to please everybody. You're going to definitely get complaints no matter what. However, it's more the major cornerstone pieces about, like what Jim just mentioned, is like your power-up sort of thing. Like you get to be a superstar, an X Factor, and you unlocked super juking ability, where if you juke, the guy's definitely going to miss you. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Instead of doing that, why not just make the players for what they are? Like Lamar Jackson.
Fix franchise mode.
Lamar Jackson should be, yes, he should have one of the higher ratings in terms of juking, because he is that elusive in the open field.
Absolutely.
But don't make it a superpower that, like, a guy you drafted and you can develop him to be just like that. And it's like, oh, now he's amazing. So, like, there's a couple of different scenarios with Madden where, like, they could really just make it about football. That's really what it all should be. It shouldn't be about a special ability that you can develop, or a superpower, if you will. That's the reason why these players are amazing. How about they should be good at certain attributes in the game based on their gameplay in real life. Right. That's all it should be.
Or even especially if you do season mode, how you play as them, that changes what they do and how they react if they get better at that.
Yeah, ratings go up and down, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And another thing too is game modes. Like, whatever happened to playing with your boys online? You're not allowed to do that anymore. You can't play in a regular, like, if you wanted to create a team and have a season with your boys, like, hey, I'll see you online. We're gonna play this whole season, you know what I mean, together online or whatever, and team up. You're not even allowed to do that anymore. Now it's like they want to keep everybody individual and sell more copies that way. It's all a money grab. So, like, get back to what gaming used to be. Is being able to team up with your boys or get on there, go play 4v4 tournaments and that type of thing. Like that was a lot of fun. Let's get back to that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Mike Tackett also says, what about the thoughts on last night's Hard Knocks? Experienced staff, but same poor ownership will keep Detroit from being no better than third in the NFC North. Hey, he's telling them that they could be third, though, possibly.
Yeah, that's improvement.
So, I mean, I don't watch Hard Knocks again, too, as well, because, I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, especially if it's like HBO and I have to pay for it. So, I'll watch the highlights maybe if I get a chance or something. But yeah, the Detroit Lions are the Detroit Lions. They are who they are because of what they've done. But at least one thing, the ownership, they did hand it down to the daughter. I don't know if if she's going to do is any better, but it looks like they did take a step in the right direction. Coaching wise, at least it seems like he's getting them all on board and buying in. They did show really good signs of life last year. You talk about when we were talking about Justin Tucker barely making that kicks to win games. It was one of the Detroit Lion games last year that the Detroit Lions had him just about, and Justin Kicker kicks the game-winning field goal from about half field and ices it for him just like that, or stripped away from him. But Hard Knocks, I don't know. It is what it is. I don't follow it too much, Joe, but I don't know. What do you think about Hard Knocks?
Hard Knocks is just an entertainment thing. Like it's for whatever fans, whatever their favorite team is on Hard Knocks. It's just for them entertainment
but are there
value.
actual
That's
like
all
Detroit
it really is.
the Lions teams that are actually like watching?
There's
Hard
a bunch
Knocks
of Lions fans. Believe it or not, they are hiding, but they are out there.
Amazing.
But nonetheless, I mean, I'll say this about Hard Knocks, and this has been true from the start, is Hard Knocks tries to show as much as they can, but the teams really limit them. It's not up to Hard Knocks. It's not up to HBO or all that. It's not up to them to snoop around and try to find we're not supposed to see this office, or we're not supposed to see the play on the board or anything. It's limited what they're able to do, and they have to abide by the rules that the team puts in place.
Yeah.
Like, listen, we'll allow you to interview this coach or whatever at this time, or talk to the players, or show certain points of practice, but they don't have full access to everything.
Yeah.
Like all the practices. You kidding me? You can take away so much from that. So yeah, they're limited. So, I mean, some Hard Knocks are more entertaining than others because of maybe the players that are involved, the characters that they get to show. But all in all, it's really just an entertainment-based type of show.
All right, Joe, why don't you tell everybody out there about what's going on this Saturday night, Joe? Saturday night, here we go.
Saturday.
The Albany
Let's
Empire,
go.
Joe, here at the
That's it.
the MVP Arena.
Let's go. That's right, Albany Empire. Listen, they're playing for the National Arena League Championship. Get your tickets now at albanyempirenal.com. Right now. Do it. The Empire go for the second NAL title. Kickoff is set for Saturday. This Saturday, baby, August 13th at 7 p.m. Be a part of the championship by buying your tickets today at albanyempirenal.com or calling the box office at 518-714-2200, extension 101.
That's right.
That's the place to go to. That's the way to go. Let's go. Let's see them win another one.
There they are. That's right. 7 o'clock. We will be there, Joe, down there at the MVP Arena. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. All right. So now let's bring up the NFL now. A spokesperson had talked to ESPN and said that they are going to focus now on illegal contact fouls this season now, an emphasis on it because there was a drastic drop from the previous years.
Who cares?
10 years, for about 10 years straight, Joe, it was like 96 calls a year, and there was 36 this time. And the NFL has to just be like, what? This isn't right. Something's wrong. There's not enough fouls, going on right now, especially for illegal contact. So we got to look into this thing. We have to have the referees be part of the game and really make the calls to sway it a certain way. Nope. You know what I mean? Nope. We have to look further into this. We're missing something if there are no calls. And it's kind of ridiculous, right? I mean, what besides the drop off, it says to them that like there's a problem that we need to focus on this more.
There's no problem. That's the NFL is the problem. They dabble way too much on, oh my God, we don't have enough penalties. Oh my God, something's wrong. Nothing is wrong because it dropped down. That's a good thing. That means players are being they're able to play for once. Listen, you've handcuffed it. You've handcuffed the defense for so many years. That now that, oh my God, because there's a drop in penalties, we can't have that. We need the referees to be a part of this game. No, we don't. That's actually what got us into problems before, is there was way too high a rate of penalties. There was games that we used to watch where just because of what you're talking about, incidental contact or defensive holding, that was going through the roof. And teams, coaches were complaining about it on a weekly basis. Why are we like steering back to that? There was a problem then. You addressed it. It got better. That's not a bad thing, NFL. You want the game of football to be played at its highest level. And when we listen, everybody complained about roughing the quarterback penalties being ridiculous. And then you're not allowed to touch their helmet. They're from their waist up. It's almost like you can't lay a finger on them. Otherwise, there's going to be roughing the passer called against you as a defense. And then all of a sudden, another rule popped up and they're like, oh, well, you can't dive at their legs either. So basically what you're telling me is if the ball's not in his hands at any given moment, I'm getting a penalty if I touch him. It's, blow to the head penalties, hitting between the numbers, like all this stuff when the ball's not, if the ball is just leaving the quarterback's hands, like literally a second, and the guy hits a quarterback, they're getting a defensive penalty. It's ridiculous. And for God's sakes, this is not cream puff football. I know the NFL is kind of trying to steer it that way.
Sounds tasty.
But let's get back to brass tacks. Let's get back to real football where quarterbacks were allowed to get hit. Listen, I'm not saying let's have them walk out on stretchers or let's have them rolled out on a wheelchair. But what I'm saying is you should be allowed to push a quarterback right after the ball's gone. You should be allowed, if you're going full speed and the ball literally just left his hand or a second goes and it just is out of his hand, you should be allowed to knock him down. That's all I'm saying. If the ball is definitely gone and the guy still hits him, okay, yeah, he gets a penalty. But the standard that they're holding against these defensive players is absolutely asinine. It's unfathomable.
That's how you take down a motherfucker.
It's ridiculous.
But one thing that they are doing, though, Joe, and you talk about roughing the passer, they are putting a more of an emphasis on forcible hits on the quarterback this year, which I think is what you're talking about that they need. So that is a positive thing when they're looking into this. They said now they want a clear measure of the roughing the passer because of the issues that they had last year, people complaining about it was just a finger tap on the helmet of somebody or somewhere near there. And Tom Brady would be like, oh man, he touched me. His finger touched my face. I could not complete that pass or whatever. And this, he was near me. He was near this, blah, 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 blah. Look, which I think is a problem around the NFL too as well. Because if you see the foul, then you throw the flag.
But sometimes they don't see it.
But if you don't, if you're not sure and you see a receiver going, yo, him, look at this, come on, and beg, and then you're like, yeah, okay, I would go with that. And then to throw it, it's like, then you don't look as sure to me. And then I'm kind of just like, well, what the heck is that? He pleaded for one and you gave it to him. Did you really see it? Are you sure? But this is the thing about the roughing the passer thing that I like because they said it has to be forcible now. Not even like
so what does that mean?
A forcible move. So now again, it has to be something that actually a blow to the head that would be
like a punch or
something like that. That kind of was a jaw.
So not
like
just a scrape
something
or a touch or a shove.
Yeah, exactly. It should be something that of force. We'll see. Again, maybe they want to judge off of this again. But I think they are looking into it because of the people that complained that it was just a tap or a finger here
but the
or got
biggest
low to the ground.
Goes back
there has to be something that's really impeding the quarterback from getting that pass out, and that's a forcible blow.
The biggest problem, it's going to continue to be a problem because none of these referees all call the games the same. That's the problem.
That's why they're trying to make it so it's more defined. And
my problem is you cannot change anything with the current referee staff. You can't. They're all part-time referees. It's the only U.S. sport, professional sport, that does not have full-time refs. It's absolutely ridiculous. And why are college basketball and MLB and NBA, those referees are all trained the same exact way. Every single year in and year out, they go through training again in the offseason. The NFL, these guys are, after the season's over, they're on vacation. And they still got jobs to go to.
Regular jobs.
So it's like they're not completely focused 110% on calling a certain call a certain way every certain situation. That's the problem. It's consistency. And we don't see it in the NFL at all. One guy is going to call that same penalty one way, and another guy is going to be like, oh, well, he did kind of just brush his sleeve, so I consider that a penalty. The other guy might say, oh, well, he got shoved. That's okay. That's fine. So this is the error. And I understand we're all humans. The referees are humans. They're going to make errors and mistakes. It's never going to be 100% flawless. I get that. But when you have guys on completely different perspectives and different views or opinions on whatever rule they're going to enforce or not enforce, that's the problem. Is until we see consistency in the referees and the calls that are made week in and week out, everybody's going to always complain. Coaches are going to be, listen, coaches are going to, they've already threatened like, hey, listen, I'm going to lose my job over this because of your bullshit calls. And now it looks like we're trending back to that whole argument again, is where the referees have too much power again, and they're going to dictate more games this way because, oh, well, I view the rule to be like this. Even though word for word you can read these rules and they're like, oh, well, I see what they're saying here. But then 3 other gentlemen might see it a slightly different way than you do. That's the problem. We don't have consistency in the calls that are made every single week. So when now they're going to talk, let's talk about, we want to enforce more, defensive contact, incidental contact on the defense now. After 5 yards, you got to let them free. But now what are we getting back to again? We're getting back to where you're not allowed to touch the receivers at all after 5 yards. And if you do, there's going to be a penalty. So what's the point in playing defense now? That's the problem. We keep fiddling. We keep bending the rules, changing the rules. When the game of football, I understand there's a big cloud with safety and how we got to protect our players, and I'm all for it. But when you're literally changing the game or changing the complexity of the game for one side, whether it be the offense or the defense, don't you think you're doing too much to the NFL game that we all know and love? And in turn, it's affecting the outcome of games. That's not the route we want to go in.
Yeah.
Boy,
Man.
that escalated quickly.
Sorry.
I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Yeah. I say, speak your mind, Joe. But yeah, I mean,
It's aggravating.
But they're trying to, I think, in this.
They've
don't
been
know.
trying to.
But again, when you're looking at a defined thing as a forcible blow, that's probably the most defined they've ever been when every rule has kind of been interpreted. A football move. What the hell is a football move when they're trying to say? At least they're even showing videos, though, too. And you can even go on the NFL.com when I looked even up what the difference is between this and this, and they'll show you instructional videos. This is what is the penalty. This is what isn't, and this is the difference here. And I'm sure a referee
is going to be the
able
problem.
to see this and be like, oh, I can see this.
They can
too.
do all the videos they want.
But I understand now, too, when you're looking at the speed of the game, too, and you're like a line judge, you're supposed to be looking all over this, that, and everywhere, and then something pops up. You're like, where you happen to be there. We'll see. I think at least for the roughing the passer, I'm excited about it. Hope that something could change a bit because it looks like they're trying to change it for the better, not just saying, well, we're forcing it all over to keep the quarterbacks protected. That seems like they're trying to make it so that quarterbacks are getting too much of an easy thing. You can get just tapped and then they can just throw it. So if they're trying to avoid that, that's fine. As far as the illegal contact down the field, we'll see where that leads. Again, they're looking to try and score even more points for some reason. Again,
It's gonna be-
I hate
Yeah,
these games that are like
that's the
50-60 against whatever.
No
I mean,
defense.
because it's kind of like it's terrible to watch. I mean, we like to support teams like the Albany Empire and stuff like that in Arena League, but sometimes for me, I watch some of those games and I'm just like, man, this coverage is leaky as hell. I'm like, this guy's totally out of position. Did he even see this? I mean, that's terrible. You know what I mean? So
My problem is we're going to have the same issue like we once did when it was Patriots versus Colts in the playoffs, and the Colts receivers were just manhandled up and down the field. It's going to be a problem.
well, we'll see. We'll see, Joe. But you know what isn't a problem?
Penalties galore. Everybody gets one.
Our friends at Colorize, Joe. Colorize joins us again for another season, Joe. They are the paint professionals. They have 3 locations in upstate New York. That's in Clifton Park, Niskayuna, and Queensbury. And Joe, but a little secret, they're
we
going to
got?
be opening another store pretty soon.
Oh, really?
So
Where?
I can't tell you yet. It's
Come
top
on,
secret.
man.
I will let you guys
I
know.
thought we were boys.
It might be in a town near you. But yes, that's right. They are the paint professionals. They focus on outstanding products from Benjamin Moore, but also as an independent dealer, they also have access to almost everything paint and finish related. I was in the store the other day and just perusing all of their little extra things that they had.
Yeah?
Because I had some paint mixed up for me by my man Brett. Shout out to Brett there in Niskayuna, the Niskayuna store. And they had these little cones things too that you can actually screw down to a piece of wood. If you wanted to paint like 2 sides of a piece at once, you spray one side, flip it over, drop it on those cones that just have a little point. They look like little safety cones. And then it just rests on those little points. So while it's wet, boom, put it on there, shoot the other side. Both sides dry at the same time. Boom, cuts your time in half.
Nice.
You get them right there at Colorize there in Niskayuna or all their stores. But anyways, let's get back to it. Serving everyone from the paint professional like myself or the do-it-yourselfers out there, guys trying to get their houses redone. Is people trying to sell their house with the market the way it is too as well. Go to Colorize. Talk to my man Brett there in Niskayuna. They are eager to help you, and they'll guide you in the right direction to make your project go so much smoother. Colorize, the right paint, color, and advice from local professionals who care. And they can speak a lot better than I can, I think. So how about that?
Sometimes.
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 All right, Joe. Rounding out the show here, we got a chance to see with the NFL, would it be Hall of Fame weekend and everything, and now even the speeches are going on as we speak.
Yeah.
We got to see now they unveiled the people that are first-year eligible Hall of Famers now, Joe. So we're not going to show you guys the list, but we are looking at the list. I'm sure you guys know, too, as well, some of these guys that are first-year eligible. We're just going to kind of go through these guys, not every single one, but
We're gonna
pick out some that we think are probably legit guys that are going to make it maybe in the first year, you know what I mean? And some that maybe down the road, and then others, well, I don't really see them as a Hall of Famer. They're up for it right now, but I just don't think they get the grade. Joe, so let's get it started here. I think at the top, especially with some of the higher scores, I know some of these websites score these guys, but Joe Thomas, dude, absolutely Joe Thomas, he's got to be a Hall of Famer, right?
No, never. No, of course Joe Thomas is one of the best, all-time left tackles. I mean, what the hell do you think? Of course he's going to make it. He's one of those players that when you hear his name, and if you know football, you know him. He was a great tackle. So, it's
just on a bad team, right?
100% he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Not even a question.
All right, now here's one that's going to put it out there. That's kind of, what do you guys think about this? All right, Shane Lechler, punter. Punters don't get a whole lot of love. But
No.
Shane Lechler, I remember him, and he was legit one of the best at his position during his time when he played.
I mean, talk about change field possession. You know what I mean? Listen, when the biggest part of his career, he played for the Raiders, and they weren't a very good team. But
They punted a lot.
But thanks to Shane, where they were punting from their own 15.
Yeah.
Guess what? The team that got the ball back, they were moving from their own 15. So, I mean, he would dramatically change the field possession game of every game that he was playing. So it's like he would literally change, as a punter, could change the whole outlook of the game. It looked grim Boom. Now, next thing you know, yeah, they punted, but guess what? Now the other team's got to move way down the field just to score. Unlike some punters nowadays, they punt like 30 to 40 yards, and you get the ball at midfield somewhere. So, but yeah, Shane Lechler, like he was just one of those gifted legs in the NFL. So, I mean, because of what he was able to do on average, could punt anywhere from 55 to 65 every time he kicked. So, I think for sure he should be in. Listen, you know, Ray Guy was seen as one of those more legendary punters. And yeah, I know he played other positions, but Ray Guy was also one of those guys where it's like you don't find a leg like that. You know, you could look 50 years and not find one. So when you get a rare case of a punter like that, you got to put him in at some point.
Right, and that's the thing. You just hit it right there. I think it's going to be some point.
Not first ballot.
This is his first ballot, but he is not a first ballot.
It depends on who the finalists are.
Even though this website we're checking out right now, it's got him graded pretty high. I don't think he's first ballot.
It depends
just because
who the finalists are.
Yeah, because if you look at this year's that just got inducted, I'm sorry, but I think
some of them don't deserve it.
I think they should have just skipped a year, skipped
Richard
2022.
Seymour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they should have just skipped a year and just moved on to 2023. Maybe. It's like, let's just skip this one. It's a COVID year, whatever. But Godzilla Media's in the house with us tonight, Joe. Gaz.
What's going on, guys?
All right, he's still bringing up just Hall of Famers that are up for it still. Steve Smith Sr., Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, Anquan Bolden, all so close. Feel like Holt, Wayne, and Bolden get in because of Super Bowls. What do you think, Joe?
Here's that whole argument about Super Bowls. No, I completely disagree. If that's the reason why they should get in, then no. Because Super Bowls to me is a team stat.
Don't be rude.
It's not an individual stat. Just because so-and-so has 4, so-and-so has 6, so-and-so has 2. No, they shouldn't get in because of Super Bowl numbers, how many championships they have had. That's a team stat. So if that's what you're going by, then no, I disagree. But if you're going by play on the football field, yeah. Reggie Wayne was seen as one of the best wide receivers in the league during his time. And same thing could be said for Torrey Holt, was one of the more unprecedented route runners when he was playing. And Anquan Bolden was like this gifted physical freak at receiver. So all these different types of players. And Steve Smith, nonetheless, was a shorter receiver, but played like he was like 6'7". You know what I mean? So all these guys had certain and different abilities that transcended on the football field that made them great. And you know what? I mean, if you could, I wish all 4 of these guys would get in because I think they're all worthy of Hall of Fame status.
You just made the list.
But the problem is we're so limited on the amount of spots for all these great athletes that, and I know it sucks, but depending on your productivity on the football field, there has to be a measure. We've talked about this numerous times.
Yeah, we have.
Whenever we bring up Hall of Fame. There has to be a threshold. There has to be a certain measure that you have to eclipse in order to be considered to be put into the Hall of Fame. And until we get that, and it's that simple of being like an average between like the bottom bottom 10 or bottom 15 or bottom 20 or whatever you want to measure it out to be, you have to hit that measure in order to be considered to the Hall of Fame. And I think that's when we would start to get better lists and get more players that are deserving to be in the Hall of Fame, regardless of position, that way. Because if you look through the history of the Hall of Fame, and I understand there's different eras, so you got to take that into consideration as well. But there's definitely players, whether it be era-driven or not, where you could look at their stats and be like, this guy played quarterback, and he had what? Really? Like Joe Namath comes to mind. Terry Bradshaw comes to mind. Those guys in their eras, they were outperformed by other quarterbacks that maybe not have made the Hall of Fame, but they had better stats, they had better productivity. So why are these guys put in? Because they had a memorable moment? Because they won, like God says, more Super Bowls? Come on, guys. It should be about how good of a player they were. That's what it's about.
Yeah. I hear you there on that whole thing again, and I think some of it too. I think it's people remember seeing some of these guys play too, so they look at names too. Steve Smith Sr. I think he was pretty productive for his team too, despite them not being really a part of a winning franchise, except for the one year they went with Jake Delhomme to the Super Bowl to try and upset the Steelers, but we. That was one of the Steelers are one of those teams that have been the storied franchises that have winning, throughout their whole, existence. So you'll see some of those other players that are brought up, like this year, James Harrison. James Harrison's up for this first time. Now, what do you think of James Harrison, Joe? I mean, we've seen the workout videos, the work this guy puts in, and he was playing at a decent level. And he still tried to play a little longer, like he did that stint with the Patriots, and that was even people saw that as a wrong thing with trying to join in the enemy here, playing with them to try and grab another Super Bowl. But I think he has been a disruptive force for the Steelers for a while, known for that one Super Bowl against the Cardinals where he got that pick six against who was the quarterback? Oh man. I can't believe I can't remember his name.
Was it against the Cardinals?
Yeah. It was. Man,
wasn't Kurt Warner?
No, it's Kurt
time,
Warner. That's what it is. See, I can't. Oh man, I can't
And-
believe I forgot that. It was Kurt Warner. They were about to score. They were like on the 2-yard line, and I'm even yelling at the TV here. I'm
Larry
just like,
Fitzgerald.
Dude, you throw that? Like, what are you doing? And yeah, he takes it all away. A memorable moment for him. But James Harrison, altogether, when you put him together with some of the best defensive players, what do you think about him being a first ballot? Because I think eventually he gets in. I just don't know about first ballot for me.
Here's the thing. It just goes back to production. To me, it's not about Super Bowls, and I know that's part of the equation for a lot of the voters out there, but that shouldn't be it. It shouldn't be. Yes, given James Harrison was a really good linebacker, I don't consider him a great linebacker. He was a really good linebacker while he played and did his job for the Steelers. But I'm not 100% sold on, does he have a big enough resume as a player? Like, he was on a really good star-studded type of defense. So was he seen as one of those elite players in the league at that position during his era? I'm not really sold on that. I don't think so. I think, that defense as a whole was extremely good. And you could pick out certain players where you could say, oh, well, this is the backbone of the defense, or that's the backbone of the defense. But to be completely honest, like when I hear James Harrison's name, I don't picture it as Hall of Fame-esque. I don't know for a fact if he has the resume. Forget Super Bowls, but like stats at that position during that time, was he considered elite? I don't think so.
5-time Pro Bowl or 2-time All-Pro, 2-time Super Bowls.
Let me know what he's done on the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, no, I hear you there. I can't even bring that up here. His highest was 16 sacks in a season in 2008. Right there, that consecutive right in a row, those 3 years, he had 16, 10, then 10.5. Then he ticks down to 9, and then as you see, the regression kind of humming around 5. But like you said,
so my thing, I have to see how does he compare to some of the guys that are already in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
You know what I mean? If we're just going by sacks, I mean, think about it. He was sent off the edge a bunch of times. Like, he was more like a pass rush specialist rather than a true linebacker. Could not cover in the open field. So, I mean, that to me right there is taking away from your linebacking position.
Sacks since 1982. What was he? Was 16? Was that? It says 4th out of 59. So I'm not sure what that means. If that's ranked 4th on the season since 50. I don't know. Out of 59 people, I don't know what that was. But yeah, it's tough. If anybody finds out, I know
I'm
you're
trying
pretty
to
good
pull it
at
up
finding
right now.
that stuff. Yeah, you have a good website that you check out. Give everybody a shout out of that website too, whatever it is, so they can check it out.
ProFootballReference.com is a place to go for
everything.
A lot of,
actually, Pro Football Reference, absolutely.
They do a phenomenal job of covering a lot of different. I guess you could call them stats or different, different ratings to go from to get you to where you need to be.
Right.
You know what I mean, the only problem that I would say is, and this goes for any website, is there's not enough attention for offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be stats kept for offensive linemen. pancake blocks, sacks given up. Like, all those are legitimate, I guess you would say stats for those positions where you could make an argument that way, but like, oh, well, this guy's better than this guy. You know what I mean? Because to be honest with you, stats is part of the debate, right? Everyone kind of likes to point to stats and everything, but you also got to think, how important was he to the team? You know what I mean? How important was he to the NFL? How much did he prove while he was playing the game? So there's a lot of different scenarios you could take in and make a debate, but offensive linemen, they get completely shafted when it comes to the stat column.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to talk about guys, too, that getting sacks and being a top performer when he was in the league. I'm talking about Dwight Freeney, too. He was almost a game changer, I would say.
Definitely.
And in his era when he played in that Colts defense that made Super Bowl runs, too, as well, Peyton Manning, and constantly in the playoffs, really. They were just constantly in the playoffs, and he had Mathis on the other side of him as well, and those guys were a terror. But when you talked about Dwight Freeney, you talked about the spinner Rooney, like the spin moves that he did, the different ways he could shed the blocks to get to the quarterback, the angle that he worked as well. And that's what made him kind of a game changer of that DN kind of position, pass rusher position. That edge rusher that everybody's looking for right now. He was kind of like that first part of the mold that everybody kind of wanted to be, in different ways to shed those blockers. And I think he's got to be really talked about for being the first ballot Hall of Famer too, as well, for the Indianapolis Colts and for an edge rusher.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that was the thing, is like, he had a patented spin move that like not many people could even replicate or duplicate. And he just had a certain unique skill or a certain unique move that he would do while he was spinning that kind of just, and not to mention, one of the quickest D linemen there was. So like on his feet, he looks like a little bowling ball, basically. But man, could he move? He had speed, he had quickness, and when he put that spin move on you, you were left out in no man's land, wondering what just happened. But oh shit, my quarterback's flattened. You know what I mean? So definitely Hall of Fame worthy. He has the sacks to prove it. He has the production. He created a ton of pressures on quarterbacks, and not to mention would tackle running backs like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, phenomenal player. You always had to keep account for him on the football field. And, yeah, to me, he has to be in the Hall of Fame.
Now, this is here for James Harrison. He's got 583 sacks on his career. That's 117th overall in the in the record books. So that's down there further too, and I don't know the likes you come up with the names that are close in that that spectrum. And that's the thing when you look at these guys sometimes, you see who he's accompanied with too, and then you see what kind of era that person might have played with as well, and where they might be, or if they were just a certain specialist. Because we see this with guys that with interceptions a lot too. Like guys might be able to be in that right type of scheme, or they're opportunistic and get those interceptions. But overall, are they really making it that big of a difference on the field too? With tackles, with stops.
Now, all right, real quick, because now I'm getting deeper.
Getting
now.
into meat now.
Listen, so Harrison was considered an outside linebacker, correct?
Right, for most of his career, and that
right,
highlights his big gap.
So here we go. All right,
best parts of his years.
Let's talk turkey here. So James Harrison ranks, let's see. He ranks, so this is the average Hall of Fame outside linebacker.
Okay.
Right? So the average would have, let's see, like interceptions. 16 is the average. Okay? For your career. Sacks, 73 total. So when we look at James Harrison and we look at sacks, he's above average with 84.5 sacks. When you look at, let's see, tackles is another big thing for the defensive positions.
Yes.
So he has, on average, you would see, well, they don't even have an average for that. But on average, or not on average, so his combination tackles, that means assisted tackles, basically. Right? You know what I mean? Or combination any number. 811. Solo tackles, 583.
Yes.
Assisted, 228. and tackles for loss 128. And rightfully so, because he was always in the backfield a lot of times. But then let me sort this to just sacks. So James Harrison, where did you fall? You went to, okay, so he's still in like the top 20 all time with 84.5. The greats, like just to give you an example, like the absolute top tier greats for this position: Kevin Green, Lawrence Taylor, Terrell Suggs, DeMarcus Ware, to name the top four, right? Kevin Green has 160 sacks. So he's got double than what Harrison has. 142 for Taylor. Suggs got 139. DeMarcus Ware's got 138. And we'll even say Ricky Jackson to round up the top 5 with 136.
All right, yeah. So
he is in really good company because he's semi-close.
But that's what I mean. He's not going to be a first-year guy.
But he shouldn't be a first-year guy because unless you've kind of made a name for yourself. Now, there's a current player that's still playing who's way higher than him.
Oh, yeah.
Von Miller. Considered an outside linebacker. He's a pass rushing specialist, much like James Harrison. And he has right now, and is still playing, by the way, 115 sacks. You know? And just about he's gonna have more tackles in every category than Harrison when his career's done. So, I mean, and this is what makes it fun. This is where the debate happens when you start to see the numbers and you start to see, you know, how everybody played and where they end up ranking and where the production was. This is what makes it fun. So, is Harrison deserving of being in it? Yes. Because I think if you're above guys, and that's just funny. Khalil Mack is on his way.
Oh wow, there you go.
He's a little farther down, but let's just for shits and giggles. Khalil Mack right now is 76.5 sacks for his career. He could go move up past Harrison. So like, there's a lot of, you know, rising and falling. You know what I mean, with current players that are still playing and you know, old players that are still hoping to maybe get into the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, I mean, is he deserving? Yeah. To me, personally, though, it's like when I thought of Harrison as a player, I'm like, oh, he's a pass rusher. That's it. But he does have the stats to prove that he deserves to maybe possibly make it to the Hall of Fame.
Right, exactly. Yep, no, I hear you. And that's what I mean when we're looking at these guys. I'm talking first ballot guys. Darrelle Revis is up there. Again, Revis Island, he was known for really locking receivers up too. Not so much on interceptions, I don't think, as well. But we look at his career a while back too when we were looking at some of these Hall of Famers, and he was dancing around there. I think, again, with people, again, with the names and stuff, I think Darrelle Revis has a good shot to go in this year. What's another one? What do you think about Navarro Bowman here? Navarro Bowman, I think he is a Hall of Famer, but I don't know if he will get in as a first ballot this year, though.
And this is the toughest.
Because when you try to judge these guys, just to give you a second here, he wasn't like a sack specialist or anything like that. He was just
great middle linebacker.
Middle linebacker, just played the position well, was able to be the run stopper, was able to be out there and break up some plays too as well. It was just all over the ball. He was just all about it, and that tough San Francisco 49ers defense. And then he also did a little stint for the Oakland Raiders too as well. But just having a 7-year career, pretty solid throughout. Again, not known as a sack leader, but really getting all those tackles here. But I think, again, when you look at his career, overall, he was one of those unstoppable forces at that position. So I think he should get in, but I just don't think this year.
Yeah, so he is in the top 15 in terms of the Hall of Fame measure, meter, whatever. Yeah. So that's all well and good. But here's the thing, is just like you mentioned, and it's a little harder for middle linebackers because they're not seen as the guy that gets a ton of sacks but it goes to like all around football. You know what I mean? Tackles, you know, maybe he gets some sacks, but not that much. You know what I mean? Like so the average Hall of Fame inside linebacker has 23 sacks, right? Bowman has 14. So he's a below average in that category. You know, when it comes to tackles for loss. He's not even in the top 15 anymore. He drops right off. And part of this is because you got to remember too, Bowman, although he had a decent career, but he was injured a lot too. I mean, we got to remember that this guy wasn't the most solid in terms of injuries of a player on the football field. Like, he did have his fair share of injuries, so that kind of led to
towards
maybe
the end
falling
of his
back.
career, at least starting in 2014, he had an MCL and an ACL tear. And then after that, again, it seemed he was never the same. 2015, he had a full season again.
Yep.
And then 16 and 17 did not play full seasons.
Yep, definitely. And then you look at like games played, 99, games started, 84. And when you look above, actually all around him, all these linebackers have well over what he has. They have 100 plus or 200 plus games.
And that's
so
why.
the lack of amount of games because he wasn't able to stay on the football field. This is going to hurt Bowman.
Yeah, exactly.
As much
That's
as
what I think it would be.
As much as I love Navarro Bowman, and I did when he was playing, dude, I was like, oh my God, this guy is all over the place. He was a great tackler. He was good in coverage. He would come and rush off the edge when asked to. You know what I mean? Stop guys in the backfield. He did so much in his short time, though. And that's kind of what's going to knock him down. And this has been my pet peeve, even for a guy like Tony Baselli. As great as Tony Baselli was, he didn't have a long career. It was kind of brief. So I feel like those guys, even as good as they've played for the years that they did, he's going to miss it. For me, Navarro Bowman does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, even though he played great for a short time.
Yeah.
Doesn't deserve it because the long career portion to prove yourself over a long period of time isn't there.
Okay.
So he just misses for me.
All right, and then if you look at the list again, it's like there's a bunch of names on here. It's their first time through. A lot of these guys I don't think have a shot. You know, you've got guys like Terrence Newman in here.
Real good players, but...
You know, again, Martellus Bennett, name some other Jay Cutler, Cliff Averill, a bunch of names, out there. Eddie Lacy's out there, Brian Cushing. These guys aren't going to sniff any of that.
Brian Cushing, another guy. Brian Cushing
he's
always
constantly injured. Was a good player, but nothing nowhere near.
While he played,
Hall of Famer.
but
Carson
no.
Palmer's out there again, who's been a solid career in playing, but again, for me, he's not Hall of Fame worthy. You got DeMarco Murray as well, but I think now when you look at some other ones, just to touch on the last one or two here, I think the running back position situation with Chris Johnson and Matt Forte, I think is interesting because, again, Chris Johnson, a guy who had his spark, I think, for some time, was like the best running back in the league for like a year, maybe two, and then dropped right off again. And again, missing games and stuff as well. Bigger ego than I think career that I think he misses it definitely this year, not getting a first ballot, where Matt Forte has kind of had a solid career and his numbers are really close to Chris Johnson and even better, but he played a few more games than Chris Johnson too as well because of the injuries that Chris Johnson had. But a true force here for the Chicago Bears. But again, if you look at first ballot, I don't think he gets in this year as well, and maybe even towards the end of his eligibility might sneak in, but not even sure about that.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part for a lot of these guys is like they might have had really good careers, but some were short, like Navarro Bowman, like Tony Baselli.
Right.
And to be honest, like that's also got to be part of the debate for these players to get into the Hall of Fame is longevity. Like you have to be on the football field and prove over a period of time that you had consistency and you were consistently great at your position. Because the Hall of Fame, the name Hall of Fame, is supposed to be the absolute elite at every position. And I feel like sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the committee, when they vote based on their experiences with the player. Like, a lot of them are journalists. So, like, when they go to interview them, if they feel like, oh, well, he's a dick. You know what I mean? Like Terrell Owens had a bad stigma about him. About how
they wanted to just keep him out.
It felt like people were keeping him out of the Hall because of his attitude that he used to have. And that should not have any bearing whatsoever on if you're a great player or not. You know, and it's like these biased opinions about certain players. Like, no, you got to throw that to the side. You have to stop thinking about, oh, well, how many Super Bowls did this guy win? No, he didn't win it. The team did. So you can't base it off of that. Now, if you want to say, well, he was a 5-time Pro Bowler, because that's an individual thing. You made it to the Pro Bowl. Okay, fine. You can have that as part of your debate and your argument. But it has to do with production on the football field over a long career, consistency, and consistently great.
Right, and if
average.
you talk about a shorter career, like the Barry Sanders thing is easy because he was obviously one of the best running backs in the league at that time, and to leave the franchise just because he knew that franchise was going nowhere, so he'd rather just retire because he was stuck there. They didn't have free agency as big as what you could do now, and even complain to try and demand a trade and get out of there. Players weren't able to do that with the way the CBA was set up and the way the union, it wasn't as strong, so they weren't able to do things like that then. So he just retired and playing at elite level right up until then. Guys like Ryan Shazier that are up for it right now.
Yeah,
he great when he was playing. Cut short, unfortunately, due to injury and all that stuff. But he's not getting in. Like, you know, unfortunately, I mean, it's just it was too short of a workload of his workspace is what you can see. You know, you can't his resume. It's just not good enough, and it's sad, you know, because again, you feel bad at what ultimately happened in this game. It has taken his ability to be able to perform and play like that. You know, luckily he's still being able to walk and run a little bit, but you can't let your emotions, like Joe said, you know, take over and start putting some of these guys in as well. And I always feel that too. I understand that some guys were game changers. Joe Namath, when he did play, it was different than what other people have seen at the quarterback position.
Yep.
It's like saying, though, right now, if you want to say Lamar Jackson, if you base it off of the way I think they kind of evaluated Joe Namath, that Lamar Jackson's on his way to the Hall of Fame in a sense, just because he's a game changer at the position, was able to be a great athlete and put up points in many ways that others couldn't. The whole part of his team, the MVP of his team, the whole offense runs around him. Everything does. So it's very important. You know, but does that
definitely
give him a spot in the Hall of Fame? I don't think so.
So here's the thing. I think Hall of Fame, the committee, I think either that or Pro Football Reference must have been listening to us in our argument about a threshold, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I keep seeing is average Hall of Fame running back, average Hall of Fame linebacker. Now there's an average in here. There wasn't before. So now maybe that could be your threshold. If you don't meet or are above this average, you can't be considered for the Hall of Fame. And this is kind of what we were getting at all along. I mean, you look at this, like, remember Terrell Davis got inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He had a short career, which to me is like a big negative. He had migraines, terrible migraines and head trauma. But again, average games, right? Average games and games started 151 and 137. Terrell Davis had 73 and 78. He didn't even come close to the average.
Yeah.
So
and again, I think good player, but it has the Super Bowl wins there with Joe.
Great player.
John Elway.
Great player while he played.
Right.
However, did not make the cut. And if we're going to be honest, should not be in the Hall of Fame.
I don't think should either.
You got to have a longer term career, and you got to be great and at your position at every category almost. Like you have to be elite. You have to be seen as elite. And don't get me wrong, Terrell Davis was amazing while he played, but short. So, and the other funny thing is they have Chris Johnson on here.
Yeah.
Chris Johnson shouldn't even be on the list.
Well,
I know he's eligible. I know he's eligible. But even for eligible, you gotta meet a standard. And Chris Johnson does not meet that if you're going by the average Hall of Fame running back. So this is definitely a fun and unique debate to have because there's going to be a lot of different opinions out there. Certain guys that like Chris Johnson, maybe a huge crazy Tennessee Titan fan, is like, no, he's got to be in there. He was one of our greatest. Yeah, one of your greatest, but all time, I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, again, they're up there. Like I said, DeMarco Murray and stuff. He had a short stint where he did well, but again, moved on to Philadelphia and just went away again. And then now he went to the Titans after that. Still not a whole lot to his resume. So
Right.
yeah, I think we covered pretty much everybody that's kind of borderline, except for like fullbacks again. But again, you're talking about first ballot. None of those guys are going to go in as a first ballot.
Yeah.
But these guys are both the guys, Mike Tolbert and John Kuhn, best at their position when they played. Absolutely. These guys, people don't know Mike Tolbert and John Kuhn, but
Right.
again, we remember watching them play and the impact that they did have when fullback was an actual position, I think, in the NFL, which people don't really
Heavily
use a whole lot
utilized.
right now.
Now it's like very far few in between.
Few that again, and you have your elites that are out there, I think, which they will
Mm-hmm.
probably eventually be in the Hall of Fame too as well. But
Hopefully,
yeah,
Because to be honest,
'cause
a
they
lot
get
of these,
forgetting them along the
a lot
wayside.
of these positions kind of get pushed off to the side because they're like, how impactful were you though? Oh, you're a great blocker. That's good.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, who needs those? You know, they can't even have tight ends these days that are good blockers for the most part. But
Very few.
absolutely. So there you go. There's our preview of the potential Hall of Fame inductees in the first round. So we'll
Yep.
see how many of those really do go through, and also bring up the other ones that are out there, and we'll see who makes the final cut, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be any of those guys. And Steve Smith, Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, those guys that have been up there for the
And
past couple of
receivers-
years that are there for receivers.
Yeah, because receivers is like a very crowded type of position for the Hall of Fame.
That's the thing.
And it's hard to distinguish them, and that's why like I keep referring to this average Hall of Fame wide receiver stat. You know what I mean? So if you don't make that, like Torrey Holt, let's just say, for example, right now, I have Torrey Holt as above the average in all categories. So well deserving of it. I think he should get in. Reggie Wayne is the same. Reggie Wayne is a tick better than Torrey Holt. So both those receivers are deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. And then when you go to about, let's say, well, who else? We got Steve Smith. Where's Stevie? Stevie
Reggie
Smith,
Wayne. Yep.
and then Reggie Wayne. Steve Smith is like just a tad below in some categories for average. So in yards, he's above. In touchdowns, he's below. You know what I mean? So it's like there could be a fun debate there on whether he should be in or not because he's right there on the cusp.
I tell you, how many times did Reggie Wayne make the Pro Bowl? Because again, you look at Torrey Holt altogether. He had 2 years where he led the league in receiving yards.
Yep.
Named to the Pro Bowl 7 times straight, and a one-time Super Bowl champion with the greatest show on turf. Almost multiple championships if it wasn't for Tom Brady. This guy Tom Brady coming into the league here. That could have been one of your most historic. What do they call? Not just the franchises, but the legacy teams that this. Now you're hearing about the Patriots. You know what I mean? Have been being that legacy that's been around for.
And here's the
forever.
crazy
They
thing.
were kind of that team.
Here's an even crazier thing. Now that we talk about those receivers right there, so Torrey Holt definitely deserving. Reggie Wayne definitely deserving. After that, you got Bolden and Steve Smith that are kind of on the cusp.
On the cusp.
In different categories. So do you put them in? Because they're on the cusp. They're not above, most of the categories or all. So it's like, it's almost that game, like how big of a difference maker were they? You know what I mean? How many accolades did they attach to their name to maybe catapult them into that discussion? But to be honest, I feel that quite possibly, Steve Smith and Bolden might actually get left outside.
Yeah, I'd say maybe they might go up for the senior positions,
Maybe
later down
at some point in
further
time
on.
down the road, yeah.
Right. It can, especially for me, for Anquan Bolden. I think Steve Smith, in my opinion, is closer than Anquan Bolden because Anquan Bolden did have
You're
a
right.
dominant career at some points, but he did jump teams and
So-
get his Super Bowl wins from other teams.
Yep.
And if you talk about when he started off in his career with the Cardinals, and you just put him, we'll just say side by side with Larry Fitzgerald, Larry Fitzgerald is just that much of a better receiver than him.
Oh yeah, for
Hall
sure,
of Famer.
for sure. But then you look at, here's the funny thing, and this is where it gets real tricky. Steve Smith, 81 touchdowns. Bolden, 82. Steve Smith, in terms of receiving yards, 14,731. Anquan Bolden, 13,779. They are so close in those categories that it's almost, then it has to
But
go, after
think about
that
it
point,
though, too. If you want to look at it though, also what quarterback did Steve Smith have in his career?
Jake Delhomme.
And who else?
and other guys.
No, yeah,
because
exactly.
he was also a Raven too at the end of his
At
career.
the end, but again, but for who again? What, Joe Flacco basically at the end? Was
Yeah,
Joe Flacco
Joe
still there?
Flacco.
But so did Anquan Bolden have
So-
Joe Flacco, but he had some other people that were kind of better wide receivers, quarterbacks, I think, for his career.
I feel like both of those receivers, me personally, I think Steve Smith gets the edge over Bolden because of how impactful he was on the football field, no matter what.
Right.
And not to say that Bolden wasn't a really good receiver. He was.
he
I'm
does.
not, I'm
And
not
he
taking
physically
anything away from
manhandles
him.
some people, yeah.
Steve Smith is a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time All-Pro receiver. Okay? Now I'm going to go back and look up what Bolden was and what his accolades were.
Right.
Because
But again, just I remember
this
him
is-
multiple teams.
This has got to be all part of
I would like to see
the
again
discussion.
who his quarterbacks were all together, but
So Anquan Bolden, I'm clicking on him right now. Let's see. Bolden was a 3-time Pro Bowler. Okay? And then he has these kind of Walter Payton Award winner in 2015. Like, these are just awards.
doesn't mean
But
anything.
3 times Pro Bowl, that's the one thing that he has, over Steve Smith, besides, one Super Bowl, which doesn't matter. That's a team sport. So if you're going by body of work, they both had long careers. They both were super successful in those positions. However, the one separation is that Steve Smith was a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time All-Pro. So Steve Smith, Bolden is definitely going to be left out. If I got a vote, I'm not putting a vote in for Bolden because Steve Smith, to me, is not only at the threshold, at the average, but if you're going to argue him in, you can argue him in because he's a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time All-Pro. And that, to me, is the difference between those two.
And look at this, all right? From 2001 to 2013, that's Steve Smith's career with the Carolina Panthers. Quarterbacks, Wenke. I can't remember that guy's first name. Chris Wenke, right?
Chris Wenke.
Yeah. Chris Wenke.
From Florida State.
Rodney Pete.
Rodney Pete.
Rodney
oh, my
Pete.
God, from the Eagles.
Yeah. How about
Oh,
that?
boy.
Jake Delhomme for 4 years.
Yep.
Then Vinny Testaverde. Then Jake Delhomme again. Then Clausen. What was his name? I forget. Steve. What was his name? Can't remember his name, though.
He's not important.
Clausen. He was a little white kid, a little blonde white kid. Clausen, and then they moved on. Jimmy Clausen. And then they moved on from him to Cam Newton, and he had him for 4 years. So overall, to have that type of career with, again, not notable quarterbacks.
Honestly, Jimmy, the way that you just kind of broke that down, that's got to be a tiebreaker, right? It's got to go by how great of a player you were. So because of the quarterbacks he had, most of his, if not all his career, you know what I mean? Like he only had Cam Newton at the last 4 years.
Right.
So that's got to
that
be a
one season that
huge,
Cam Newton actually performed
right?
well.
And that's got to be a huge, bump for Steve Smith because look at what he had to work with, and he made it happen. And for him to become and get all those accolades afterwards as a wide receiver, that's boom. It's got to catapult him up there into really being pushed into the Hall of Fame. But again, we know that this is extremely hard, and we're only dissecting the receivers.
Right, and just a
There's
quick touch
other
on
players
Anquan
going
Bolden again.
too.
The years with Arizona,
Yeah,
Kurt Warner. In Baltimore,
Great
he
quarterback.
had Joe Flacco, but that team was great too, especially with the defense. It
and
went
that
to the
was-
Super Bowl and
right.
a great football
and
head
that
coach.
was Flacco's prime years.
And
Yeah.
then if you look at the 49ers, again, Jim Harbaugh years, their
Yeah.
best years
Yep.
with, what's his?
Did they have
freaking
John
name, too?
Garcia there yet?
They
Like
Garcia,
was he with Jim? It's
no, I don't think
is
they
that-
had already
he was
moved
gone.
on. He was already moved on, and
because there was someone before Colin.
yeah, Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Let's see if I can look at 2013 San
Because
Francisco
Colin Kaepernick,
49ers.
we know that was like before Jim left the Niners. Colin Kaepernick was the quarterback.
I can
But
see the quarterback
there-
right now.
there was a
for
quarterback
2013.
before Colin.
No, straight up when he was
Was
there
it him?
with them, it was Colin Kaepernick.
Really?
Yep, 2013. There it was.
Man, I'm sorry, Steve.
And then they had Colt McCoy as the backup.
You might have had
But-
that. You might have had even more. I mean, just think about like some of these.
No, that was Steve Smith. Well, you're saying Anquan Bolden? you
Oh,
mean?
Bolden, yeah.
That was Anquan Bolden.
Bolden would have had a lot more if he maybe he, because you got to remember too,
If
is
the
they
power
are
did
two-
not go out during that Super Bowl, where Joe Flacco was on the other end of it, right?
But think about it there too, as they're two different types of receivers. Bolden's not a speedster.
Right,
Never
yeah,
was.
yeah, they're different.
He was a possession,
Absolutely. Yeah.
tough type of slot type of guy
right.
who at times was used as a second receiver.
Yep.
Where Steve Smith could just blow right by you if he wanted to with his speed. So very different type of players, but nonetheless, when you're comparing the two, there's really no comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. But you want to talk about no comparison. That's all you know-it-alls out there. We definitely love you guys for tuning
Thank
in,
you,
watching
thank
the
you.
show. Listen to us on your podcasts, too, everywhere. You can get them, Apple, Spotify, Google Casts, all that stuff. If you haven't yet, make sure you guys go to YouTube and find our show there. Make sure you hit the like button. I think there's a like button now, right?
There's always a like button.
There you go.
Everywhere you go, there's a like button. But there's no share button, unfortunately.
No share button.
But actually, no, there is. There is a share button on
is,
YouTube.
there is, yeah.
You can share to all your friends and family out there, anybody. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stay with us. Help our channel grow. Help us become more notable, because this algorithm thing is really driving me crazy.
There you
I don't know how to get more exposure, but we need you guys out there to help us out. Share us, like the video, and subscribe and hit the notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. Listen, you can also go, if you don't like YouTube, that's fine too. You can go to Facebook
these days.
and search us up Football on the No Show and become a member, become a know-it-all. We really appreciate you guys out there. Thank you guys for all the comments down below. Thank you guys for your opinions and your questions. And bless everybody. Bless everybody. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.